Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to all of us. I'm really happy to be with you today. So I will have an overview of the situation of marine litter in the Mediterranean Sea. I will try to make it very short and clear. I think this is the most important message to be delivered. So what we have to know about marine litter is that it's a huge amount of debris coming to the sea. It's about 4 billion every year of garbage. It's about 288 million tons of plastic that are given to the public every year too. It's about 6 million tons from ships, and the Mediterranean Sea is an important part of this source of litter. And we have counted, on the average, more than 100,000 microparticles in the Mediterranean Sea. We will have a special talk on that from Gesamp and Peter Kershaw then later. So marine litter is very diverse. It goes from microplastics to wrecks, very large wrecks and so on, including different types of plastics, wood, metals, glass, and so on. It's very diverse in terms of shapes and so on, wrecks and bottles, cans, and so on. So we can classify these different litter, but the most important that we have to go to act on sources, and it's quite complicated because the sources are not well identified at the moment. So we know that rivers are very important. These examples are from the Seine River in France, what is on the beach along the estuary, and also the type of cotton muds that we had because of the people are behaving not the right way. So it was just only 100 meters of beach where these were collected on the left bottom. Also, the containers are lost sometimes at sea. This is another example. We do have extreme events, such as the discharge in Lebanon, for instance, where the litters are directly going to the sea and then taken with the circulation to the other countries. We do have also pellets that are lost sometimes at sea. It's about 10% of the debris microplastics from directly from industry because of unrational behaviors. We do have some maritime sources, such as aquaculture, fisheries, and so on. But fishermen, they are not only sources, but also they are the target of marine litter, affected by marine litter. So they are an important player in that field. Tourism is also very important. And sometimes production of litter increased by up to 75%. And tourists generally, because it's not changing its way of life during the holidays, is generating more litter than usual inhabitants. So we know that it's about 80% of coming from the land. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. So it's about 80% coming from land, and by the way, 20. In some cases, such as southern North Sea, it's inverted because of the maritime traffic. Good. Okay, plastic is an important part of it, up to 100% for floating litter sometimes because they are high-density items, low-density items, and then coming to the surface. So then litter may strand on beaches. This is an example of in Libya, on the top left. And the problem of cigarette butts is very important in the Mediterranean Sea, and it has been increased because of the legislation. There were, smoking in public areas in some offices, for instance, has been forbidden. And so we have the case of people going outside and smoking and then throwing away all the butts. So for England only, it has been growing by 20 to 40% in the recent years, just because of this new rule. Litter may also float, for sure. I have an example of floating litter in the Ligurian current. And so it means that they are able to be transported very far. And from one country to another one, I will have some other examples on that. So we're trying to compile and know about the density. We are one of the most affected areas in the world, Mediterranean Sea, not only on stranded, but also on floating and on the sea floor. Some examples of accumulation. This was a trawling performed close to Marseille in France, and it was just in 5 minutes. So this is exactly what is on the bottom. So it's really a serious problem. It's not something like a fashion. It's really a problem, and we have to do something on that. I think it's quite important. And it was 400 meters depth, also offshore the French coast. So we do have some examples of trends, monitoring, and so on. So we begin to know how it changed with the time. So we need some work to know exactly what is happening in different areas of the Mediterranean. I will not go on that, but we have to know that the litter will degrade to microplastics, and this is an important point. So some scientists are trying to understand how the litters are behaving. I do have some examples, for instance, how the drifters that are moving in the Mediterranean Sea. So it means that from Corsica, they may travel to Italy, then France, then Spain, then Morocco, then Algeria, Tunisia, and then to Italy again. And this is the same in the Adriatic Sea, where they are traveling from Greece to Albania, to Croatia, Montenegro, Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia, and then Italy again and back. And this is the same in the Levantine Basin. So this is a typical international problem, and I think that UPM could be really acting on that. We do have projects on that that we'll probably propose later. So we do have some examples of transportation and the importance of rivers too. So this is another example. This is just one scenario in specific weather conditions. It shows how in 1 month the litter may displace and go to another country, in that case from Corsica to... So in case of events such as the Concordia, for instance, or the large discharge in Lebanon, then the litter will be moving to another. So it means that if you have some reduction measures, it could be not doing nothing because they are coming from somewhere else. So it means that you have to work at a really coordinated level at the Mediterranean level. This is a typical topic for the Union for the Mediterranean Sea. That's my thing. So litter may degrade sometimes for a long time, more than centuries for some plastics types, and more than millennaries for glass. And then impact is quite important. Entanglement is one of the most. They are related fishing gears that will be taken in account in this project, but also active fishing sometimes. Ingestion is an important part of effects, with more than it was said already, more than yesterday, 660 species that are known to ingest marine litters. Some are really sensitive, such as turtles, for instance. And now we are trying to focus on what the litter has becoming after being ingested. It seems that most of them are excreted, and then there is a question about impact on trophic chains. It's not clear at the moment whether trophic chains are impacted or not, but we have some argument for and argument against. So we need some more work to understand. At the end, it could be a good news that the litter may not transfer to trophic chain. Litter may raft various species, such as they are traveling. So if they are traveling from one country to the other one, it means that the species that are quoted on may also travel from one country to another one. So different examples, algae and microplastics, and different species. This was from Greece, this was in France, this was in Italy, and anywhere. I mean, the species are fixing and then moving from one country. So the problem is that at the world level, it's billions of particles. So in million years ago, it was just only floating woods that were transporting, coconut trees and so on, that were transporting the new species. Then the ships helped a bit, 10,000, 100,000, but now it's billions of particles transporting these species. So there is a risk, and just only after the tsunami, it was more than 120 species that have been traveled from Japan to Canada. We don't know about the Mediterranean Sea at the moment. The risk is quite important. So there are also some social and behavior have been changed, economic impacts, cleaning, for instance, on fisheries and so on. Some effects on human health, this is a quite important topic. And injuries on beaches, for instance. Some people were killed in Ireland 2 years ago just because they were entangled in nets also. And we know since about 3 months that also pathogen could be transported by marine litter. So this is an important topic to be emerging topic, and we have to do a lot on this too. Not so many solutions, unfortunately, because the sources are really diffuse. So cleaning, retaining on the rivers, for instance, could be a way. Collecting at the sea or not, NGOs or not. The problem is that it's really time-consuming, will take time, education also, but this is not really the topic at the moment. And, I mean, my topic. And then we have also many agreements and solutions. The two main are the Marine Strategy Firm Directive, I think, as giving some... I think it's very important because this is the first time an international institution recognized, acting on directly as a true pollution. It was considered as a nuisance in French for years, but now it's something like at the same level than eutrophication or chemical contamination is quite important. And the second one is the MacroRegion Action Plan with all associated projects, monitoring and so on. And this was the first you will have some information on it. So these both are main driver on the actions that are already on. Maybe the Union of the Mediterranean Sea could be helping also and acting on that. So before we leave, I would like to have a movie. I prepared a movie. Maybe it's possible to have it. I think it was important for you to see that film. And so could you please start?
Just lower the light, please.
So this was taken with the submersible at 1,000 meters. It was 20 kilometers offshore the French Mediterranean coast. And so while you are diving, what you are expecting is something very... When you are diving, what you are expecting is something very, exotic. I mean, you are trying to find a new species and you're going some places where... Okay. Okay, so you are expecting something very exotic and very strange, a new species or so on. And in fact, when you arrive, each time there is a rock, a hole, and along mountains and so on, you will find all this litter accumulating. So this is the real situation of the deep sea of the Mediterranean Sea. And this is not something very uncommon. This is everywhere you're going, all canyons, close to any large towns from the Mediterranean Sea, that will be the situation. So it's really something like disappointing when you're starting, when you are a sonographer. So just only bottles and so on. We know that some have been from 50 years already, and if there is no measures on that, I think they will be just increasing because they are there for centuries. Thank you very much.